Hey folks, so today we're going to be doing something a bit different for us. We normally do first impressions and unboxings, and I've decided to do something of a review rather than doing the first impressions. This has come about by a couple of things really. One, the feedback I've had from yourselves. People have been saying to me that they want to know more of my opinions about whether the game's good, bad, should they buy it, things like that. And also the fact that when I've been doing my first impressions videos, I've noticed that sometimes my opinions have intruded a bit too much into it in terms of making it too long rather than just being a brief overview of the game. It's been more in depth. So I've basically been sneaking towards that anyway. So I've decided that I will start doing that from now on. Probably I'll start doing reviews for you. I'm not going to be putting videos out and being like, you should definitely buy this game or you should definitely hate this game. I think there's plenty of reviews out there that would do similar things like that if that's what you're looking for. I think what I'll try and do instead is try and guide people towards the games I think that they might like. So if for example, if I think if you're a competitive gamer, you might like this game, for example. And I can think that the reason why all this has come about now is because today we're looking at a game called Holding On: The Life of Billy Kerr. And this game I think is going to be too complex to just do a brief overview to any standard that I would be happy with. So I'm going to do a bit more in depth. We're going to do some points what I like and dislike and how it plays. And I think who I think will be want to be getting into this game, who would like to play and buy this game. So with that in mind, I will say the half the reason that I wanted to do a more in-depth review is because of the subject matter of this game. It's not something that I think is fair or could ever have any justice done to it, because basically this game revolves, or the storyline of this game revolves around a man who's on his last days. He is in a hospital bed and he is passing away, terminally ill, basically. So I didn't feel that it would do much justice to just skim over that. With that being said, this is a very, very difficult subject, a very difficult topic. Bear in mind it is a game, so it should be fun, and obviously I will say if it fails on that front. But if you can try not to get too put off straight away, at least try and make it through the video if you can. I do want to do something to try and help people though. I wouldn't normally do this for a board gaming show, but I think it's important in this particular case. So, if you are somebody who is suffering from a long-term terminal illness, or if you are somebody that is caring for somebody who is in that position, then if you haven't already been advised by your doctors and nurses already, there's a number to call. It's called Marie Carey. They're institute or foundation, I forget which, but they specialise there. The whole purpose for being, the whole charity's whole purpose for being is to help people like yourselves, either help the people who are terminally ill or to give you some help as well if you're trying to deal with somebody with specific needs or even emotional needs for yourself, because obviously very taxing and draining dealing with somebody in that situation. So I'm going to put the number up on screen, but I'm going to say it out loud anyway. The number to call, it's a free phone number. It's 0800 090 2309. So luckily, if you are in that situation, or if you are caring for somebody who is in that situation, then do not hesitate to give them a call. That is exactly what they're there for. By the same token, if you have any issues with this video in terms of if it upsets you, if it well, I hope it doesn't offend you, but if it does upset you and bring back bad memories, or you're going through a situation at the moment and you just want someone to talk to, regardless of the situation, whether you're depressed about something or whether you feel suicidal or whatever, the Samaritans are always there. So if me talking about this video or the subject matter upsets you in any way, shape or form, please feel free to give them a call. Again, it's a free phone number and they are open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And their number is 116123. So if anything I say in this video upsets you and makes you feel down in that you need to talk to somebody, don't hesitate to call them. That is absolutely what they're there for. But saying that, like I say, this is a board game, so I hope that it doesn't upset you or offend you in any way, shape or form. And we'll go and open it now, and I will come back to you in a bit and give you a kind of mini review for it. So I'll see you all in a bit. Hey there folks, so this is a game that I have very much been looking forward to. I appreciate that it's quite a somber toned game, but at the same point I don't think that stops it from being a great game, and I have been extremely looking forward to this, so I really hope this lives up to expectations. I have my own copy which I put off opening because I wanted to make sure that my first impressions were actually that. So yeah, so let's crack this open and have a look at it and see what it's all about. So as you can see, you've got this lovely but obviously somber toned artwork on the front, and flip it over so we can see here. So this shows you that it is a 2 to 4 player game for 14 plus, and it is about 45 to 60 minute playtime, so it's not too long, which makes sense because if you've got something that's going to be quite emotionally charged, you don't want people sitting down for hours and then just burn them out. So as we can see, we've got a nice picture on the back here with the usual list of contents down the side here. It does say here, obviously, gives a little bit of a warning, just so you can see at a glance. But yes, obviously this is a cooperative game. It says here, this is a cooperative game where players work as nursing staff tasked with providing care for the terminally ill. So as you can see, there's quite a bit of stuff there if you want to pause and read it. But yeah, I'll read this little catchphrase bit out at the top. It says, "All my life I've kept my mouth shut, out of loyalty, out of fear, and out of shame. And look where it's got me. Lying here with my rear end hanging out of a blue gown, all of you lot fussing over me. Sure, that's no way to live. There's no way to die." So as you can see, it's quite a, obviously quite a serious toned game. It's one of those ones I'm afraid that there probably would be too many jokes in this video, I'm afraid, because obviously I want to be respectful to the source matter, and it's not obviously I don't think it's funny to make fun of people's last moments. So I will apologise if it's not a bit not somber but more serious video. Anywho, so obviously the story for this is, I know it briefly, but I'll give you a rundown from this. It's basically your hospital staff, and you have a patient who is had a massive heart attack on a flight from Sydney to London. So when the game begins, all that you know is that the patient's name is Billy Kerr, that he's 60 years old, and he's been given days to live. So the idea is you have to work together to look after him, obviously to see to his medical needs, but also you have to give him palliative care. This is a man who's isolated and alone from his family and friends, and in his last moments, so you need to be there to try and help ease his mind and conscience and things. I will obviously talk more about that after I've played it and I can give you a better idea. I only know what I know from seeing kind of presentation videos of this a little while ago. I saw a prototype version of this being played and it just struck me as the kind of game that I wanted to play. Anyway, let's open this so I can show you the contents. So, yeah. There we go. Let's get this open. There we go. So there we go. So straight away we've got a nice large rule book. There you go, straight away. So sorry, I stopped to read myself there because I was trying to figure out what it says. Obviously this is telling you a very clear warning. This is something that I was concerned about for this unboxing. The partial memory and clear memory cards are only revealed during the game. While we can't stop you from looking at the cards in advance, it will diminish the sense of discovery that lies at the heart of playing Holding On. Because the whole point of this game is that, again, I want to address this more when I talk about the game at the end, or maybe beforehand, it depends how I choose to edit the video. But essentially, medical care is not always just about tending to your physical needs, it's obviously dealing with your emotional and mental well-being as well. So obviously this game is all about that side of, well, it's about all of it on the whole, but part of the game, or the main core of the game, is helping this man deal with his past so that he's at peace, ready to move on. So obviously what they're talking about there is really important. That's the kind of spoiler warning for the game, because if you look at those cards in advance, you will ruin your enjoyment of the game. So I'm not going to show those cards to you. Also don't want to see them myself, because like I say, I own a copy of this game. I don't want to spoil the surprise for myself either. So I'll do my best to go through this without having any spoilers in it. If I accidentally show something, I'll flash up something on screen so that I stop you from seeing it. Anyway, so this is the rulebook. So it looks nice large pictures, nice full colour. Oh, this is quite nice. Nice little sorry, move it up so you can see. Nice little chart there, helping to make your life a bit easier to just say what can this thing do, what can this thing not do. Obviously, yeah, this, as much as there's quite a few words, it's all nicely laid out so that you know that when you're looking for something, you can just go, oh, just go to this page and go to this thing. So that's good. Doesn't feel too long either. Yep. And see, this is a nice touch. This is something I remember seeing in the preview video, in the prototype video. Just like real life, the doctors and nurses themselves get very stressed, either because of doing long shifts and pushing themselves too hard, or because of the fact that they are obviously dealing with terminally ill patients, so it has an effect on their psyche and their mental well-being. So I like the fact that they've chosen to replicate that in this game. They could have just focused purely on him, and I like the fact that they put that in as well. There are a lot of games out there that choose to... No, I'll save that thought. I'll save that thought for the end. I was going to say something else, but I'll save that thought for my end. Anyway, so obviously these are your tokens. They are very, very thick, which is good. It means they'll last a long time. Nice and chunky, nice and clear. I can't remember what these all do. Obviously these are the stress rings to go around your models, but I can't remember what all the rest. I think these are warnings, if memory serves me. So and these allow you to like call people and things like that. So that's kind of groovy. Anyway, so the board is nice and small, as you can see. It's literally only used to track the various information. So it doesn't need to be particularly big, but I do appreciate the theming they've done with other. You have to hold it up so you can see. You know, obviously that's graph effect and the EKG readouts and things like that. So that's quite nice. I do appreciate that. Your little clipboard here to show who is the on-call doctor that day, and obviously give you warnings and things like that. So that's a nice little thing. So right, so straight away we see this warning, big and clear as day. So this is the bottom of the narrative deck. So I'm assuming that so these are what they'll look on the back. So they obviously put scenario for, and the personal cards for that. But yeah, this is the scenarios and events that make up the story of the game. So I might open this, but actually it's all quick open. I'll do it. I know what to look for because I've, like I said, already seen a prototype version of the game. So if this is exactly what this warning says, then I know to. Yeah. So this is exactly what it says. So I'm thankfully not managed to spoil anything, but this is the narrative story deck. So again, I don't want to show you anything. I know that means obviously that's a large stack of cards that's the content of the game that I'm not showing you. I can only apologise for that. And what I can do is, I noticed that there's a thank you card underneath the warning card. So I can tell you they're pretty thick. So I can gauge obviously the quality of the cards for you. They're nice glossy, quite thick cards. But otherwise than that, I can't show you any of this, I'm afraid. So I do apologise, but they are going back in the box, because if you do decide to get this game, then that will just completely destroy your entire enjoyment of it. But I can show you with the other bits and pieces though. So we've got, let's open this up. So, as memory serves me, so this is the thing, as much as this is my first impressions, I do have a little bit of knowledge from seeing the prototype version of this. So memory serves me, these are the situations that you'll be dealing with. So every day you will have one of these cards and it'll be dealt, and it'll go on to the space, like that. So this will be that one I think. But it'll go into this space, and then this will be the condition of him that day. So this is how many people you can assign to it, how many doctors and nurses you can assign, is these two spots at the top. And then these are what you have to deal with. So obviously he's having, you can tell from the artworks whether he's having a good day or a bad day, how much pain he's in. So off camera there, I do apologise. So that's like obviously quite a calm day, he's quite stable. And you have an opportunity to talk to him as well and things like that. But you also have days where he's in a lot of pain, he's obviously suffering quite badly. So those days you will not be able to, and he will require more medical care to try and stabilise his condition. And then, like I say, other days he'll be quite reflective, and it'll give you chances to either give him medical care or talk to him and get his life. But obviously, you've got some nice evocative artwork at the top. If I can actually separate the cards, yeah, you've got some nice evocative artwork, and they're quite cool. And again, they're the same kind of stock as that one, so they're quite thick card. Yep, and obviously nice and glossy and stuff, so that's kind of cool. So that's very pretty, very appreciate that. Put that back down there because I was covering the books. Some good old fashioned, nothing fancy. They don't need to be really though. This is just, I always think of Cluedo when I see things like this, because that was the first game I ever came across that had them in. But yeah, these are, I believe these are the players, and these are on call, because you can hire in agents, nurses and stuff. So they're kind of cool, very basic, but you know, they serve the purpose for which they are there for. Right. Right, so again, these ones I'm going to have struggle to show you, because these ones are his memories. These are the core of the game. That's the same problem with unboxing a game like this. There's so many secrets involved in it. I am very limited to what I can and can't show you. My memory's not great either, so I don't remember too much. So I remember that these. So when you're looking for the memories, so I can explain that instead. How's that? So when you're looking for memories, you'll get these cards randomly. So this deck will be shuffled, and you'll deal them to the bottom of the deck, I believe. And the idea is that these conform with a timeline. So as you go through these, they will, yeah. So as you go through these will be his partial memories that you will. Basically, the idea is you're talking to him, and as you're talking to him, he's revealing little bits, and you're like, he was saying something about that the other day. Or I wonder if that happened about the same time as that thing. Oh, okay, so that was the time that he went down the road and he found, yeah, and that's how it works. So the idea is you're finding bits of memories from his conversation, and you're piecing them together so that you can obviously talk to him and find out more about this man. But the way they do it is that they use these pips at the side. I don't know if you can see that from the show on the lights. So obviously these ones are all level 5, so that means they all work together in the timeline. They're all part of a certain memory. Whereas obviously these ones are all number 2, and they all actually, in a lovely twist that I can't show you, it's so sad. In a lovely twist, they all go together in a line, but then those lines also correlate to the ones underneath them, so you actually end up, if you were to reveal the whole thing, you have a full, lovely, beautiful painting, which is built up of his entire life. These cards are the same, so these cards are, so these are the partial memories. So if I can open these, I can relate a bit more. Trying to think of one I can give you as an example, so that it doesn't spoil too much. Maybe this one that I've accidentally shown you a couple of times because it was face up in the box. So you'll have cards like this, and they'll have a quote, which is very cryptic, and obviously the idea behind that is he's kind of mumbling, kind of as we do when we're kind of remembering back on things. And then this, like I say, this is the card that I had on the box and display, so it's not spoiling anything you haven't already inadvertently spoiled. I do apologise. But as you can see, there's not much going on. Like obviously this is Billy in the middle, but all the rest is kind of very impressionist, so that you can't really see an awful lot. And the idea is, in one of these cards, these are the full versions. So I don't know. I can't really show you that. I'm so worried about spoiling things for you. But essentially, in the other versions of the cards, this will all be filled in. So this will be a full picture. So you'll be like, oh right, that's what they're looking at in this scene. I mean, for all I know, this could be him sitting by somebody's side. This could be him. This is a little bit like a chair. So this could be an office and him working away. I don't know. This is the whole point. So then obviously you, as you talk to him more, you turn these fragmented memories into whole memories, which are then represented by these cards. And through that, obviously, you piece together his life. And just throwing cards around. yeah, so you piece together his life, and obviously through these narrative cards as well, it will kind of drive you to try and find out some bits and pieces. Anyway, beyond that, we've got obviously this nice insert that will hold it all in place and keep all of your cards separate. I'm assuming, I don't know what this is for. Kind of bizarre, but yeah, nothing in there like that. But yeah, it all seems to, yeah, so that fits in there. Oh, look at that. I do appreciate things like that. So you've got a couple of spare slots. I'm assuming, oh yeah, it'll be for these, sorry. It'll be for these tokens. But otherwise than that, there's not much I can really show you. It's a bit awkward. I might have to try and take a photograph or two of the game in play. Maybe do some footage of the game. Try and do it that way. But obviously the important thing that I'm trying to show you is obviously it has a nice box inside, decent quality box, all the components are nice quality, but I'm kind of struggling a bit because normally I would be like showing you all the bits and flicking through all the cards, and I just really can't with this one because it will utterly ruin the game. And as far as I can tell from what I have seen thus far and from the reviews that I have seen, this is a game that's really, really good and really want to be enjoyed, so I don't want to ruin anything for you. So with that in mind, I will now go away and play this with my living partner, and yeah, we'll figure out, does it live up to my expectations? And I mean, if anything, I think I'm probably going to be utterly devastated if it doesn't, because I'm really looking forward to this one, but we should see. I think I have high hopes. I have heard the reviews are good, so I have high hopes for it. So I'm going to play this, and then I will come back and give you my thoughts on the subject. Hey there folks, and we are back. So we have played a few games of Holding On, The Life of Billy Kerr. So what do we think then? Let's try and do this review. I'm going to just break it down into sections so we can tackle it in stages. Obviously you get a better feel for what the game is like and hopefully answer some of your questions. So we're going to start off with where you'd start off with. How easy is the game to learn? So looking at the rulebook, it is very detailed and very nicely laid out. There are plenty of examples and pictures scattered throughout. And there's one of the things that's really nice is that each section is outlined, so you can tell if you need to know something. You can flick through the book until you find the section that you're looking for, so you have a question later on. So say you wanted to know about things relating to Billy's condition, you know that you can find it on this page just by skim reading and flicking through. It is nicely detailed, as mentioned before, so it answers many questions that you may or may not have. But generally speaking, looking at a wall of text like this can be quite daunting. However, I will say that if you are not into reading rulebooks, despite how this is quite a thin one, if you're not into that, then Hub Games have partnered with Watch It Played, so you can either go via their website, as it says at the top of the book here, or you can go via their YouTube, and you can watch it played on Watch It Played. So it's very easy to get into this game, I feel, and it's very well written so that you generally don't trip over too many rules. It's very self-explanatory. I will say that if you're anything like me, you'll look at this and it'll be a little bit daunting, but the fact that you watch it played, it just makes it so much easier. I'm not going to lie, I use his videos on a regular basis. He is doing phenomenal work. But yeah, so it's very easy to get into this game, either by reading the rulebook yourself or just by watching a video. So if the game is easy to learn, then how does it play? Well, on your average turn, a game will go like this. At the beginning of each day, you'll have the handover. That's when whoever was the shift manager for the last turn will hand over the shift manager's clipboard, along with all the tokens on it, to the next person, and they become the new shift manager for that day. Next up, you have the morning shift. This is where the shift manager will draw a patient card for Billy, showing his status and how he's feeling at the beginning of the day. And they will then assign nurses to deal with his situation, depending on how many are required. At that point, whoever has been assigned to Billy will decide how to treat him, whether to give him medical care or palliative care. That will be their decision. Once that has been resolved, it will then be the option for the shift manager to decide whether she or he wants to send anybody home that day. If they do, they will do so at this point, and that is entirely optional. Next up, we have the afternoon shift, where the shift manager will draw another card, and then, as before, they will assign nurses to deal with Billy's condition, and those nurses will then decide what they wish to do to care for him. And then there will be a night shift card, where exactly the same takes place. The shift manager will once again assign nurses, and then they will be able to treat Billy as they see fit. So at that point, the shift manager will do the end of day duties, starting with checking for hospital warnings. If Billy received no medical care that day, then the nurses will receive a warning from the hospital. 2 warnings, and the game is over. The shift manager will then check to see if there are any staff still in the break room at the end of the day. If that's the case, instead of going home, they've spent additional time with Billy, gaining his trust and making sure that he's okay, and they will garner 2 care tokens for doing so. At this point, the shift manager will also return any staff that are currently on cards from treating Billy. They will return them back to the break room. Any on-call assistants at this point that have been used over the course of the day are also removed from the game. Any staff that were sent home early that day or overstaffed from the previous day now return back to the break room. And then any overstressed staff are then sent home. Once this is all resolved, the nurses will then talk about Billy and what they have learned over the course of the day, trying to turn partial memories into clear memories. Once all of that has been resolved, a new day starts over again, the shift manager's board moves from one player to the next, and the whole cycle begins again. So if that's a turn, how do the mechanics break down for this game? How do you actually treat Billy? How do you choose to care for him? Well, essentially, when you are assigned by the shift manager to care for Billy, you will have generally one of 2 options. You will either be able to give him palliative care or medical care. If you choose to give him medical care, you will look at the left-hand side of the card to see what his condition is. Looking at the left-hand side of the card, you will see one of 2 types of icon. You will either see a yellow condition stable icon, in which case if you do not do anything to help Billy, his condition will remain stable and nothing will happen. It will neither go up nor down. Or you will see a number of red condition deteriorating symbols, in which case if you don't do anything about his condition, then he will lose an amount of health points equal to the amount of red icons on his card. If you choose to give him palliative care, then you will spend more time talking to him and trying to earn his trust. You will then get a number of rewards or choice of rewards depending on what is on the card. This will comprise of either partial memories, where he mumbles a few things to you, or care tokens, where you learn more about his condition and just spend time making sure that you can better help him in the future. This will be represented by care tokens. Sometimes on these cards there will be a symbol at the bottom of the card. This means that after providing either type of care, you can also try and talk to Billy and inquire about a specific timeline card. At which point, another player will choose to be Billy and they'll pick up the partial memories deck. At which point, the nurse will turn around and say which timeline it is they wish to inquire about. Cards are then drawn from the bottom of the deck until either an event card is drawn or a card matching the timeline that was inquired about. If you can manage to not get stressed and not lose the partial memories that you have been talking about over the course of the day, then at the end of the day you will be able to discuss with the other nurses about the card that you just received. Until then though, you cannot turn the card over and see the image of what Billy was talking about. As I've just mentioned stress, I will explain how that is acquired. If you are asked to cover an 8-hour shift, then everything is fine. But if you are asked to cover a shift following that 8-hour shift, so you have to pull double duty, then you will require a stress token. This is a little red ring that goes over the top of your meeple. At this point, if you've gained stress, you will either need to discard 1 care token or 1 random partial memory that you've recovered. This obviously representing trying to juggle all of these things over the course of the day and the poor nurse just forgetting what it was that they learned from Billy. Play will continue like this until one of 4 things happens. Either the players succeed in what they're trying to accomplish, or Billy's patient deck runs out, Billy loses all of his remaining life points, or the hospital receives 2 warnings for not taking adequate enough care of Billy. So if that's how the game plays, then what are the production values of this game like? I have to say the production values are very, very strong. The component quality, the card stock is very good, very thick and very clear imagery. The counters are simple but effective and work very well. The rulebook is very well laid out with clear instructions and examples. And the box insert is beautifully designed so that everything fits snugly in there once you put the lid on. Not a single inch of space has been wasted inside that small box. So if the game is simple to learn, and the game is fun to play, and the production values are high, then what is the theme like? Well, I mean, does it convey itself through the mechanics of the game? I actually think yes, I think it does convey very well. The theme is nice and strong, with plenty of flavour coming through the artwork on the cards, as well as the small amount of story you get at the beginning and the end of each scenario, and also through the partial memory cards that you receive while playing. The game does not dwell on the fact that Billy is a terminal patient. It is an ever-present fact and nothing more. Instead, the game focuses on 2 core aspects. 1, making sure that Billy has adequate care at all times. You are constantly trying to juggle his health and making sure that staff are not stressed out and that are able to care for him at all times. The second aspect of it is you're trying to make sure that you can help Billy let go of the past traumas that he's holding on to. This is immensely enjoyable and very thematic. I'm sure many nurses out there can speak to whether they're speaking to terminal patients or they're speaking to fairly healthy individuals. Everyone has a story to tell, and Billy is no different. You have to work hard at making sure that he is physically well looked after and taken care of, but also that you talk to him on a regular basis to try and earn and build on that trust. And in some scenarios, do things like try and improve his mood. The stress mechanic is particularly interesting to me. As mentioned earlier in this video, if you have to move from one 8-hour shift to another 8-hour shift, you will accrue stress tokens. This is a very lovely little touch as far as I'm concerned, because in this example it is a red ring that hangs over the top of your meeple. This is a beautiful metaphor for the stresses that real nurses and doctors have to cope with. This weight hanging around your neck, a burden on your shoulders. It is a beautiful little touch and much appreciated by myself. So we've given you broad sweeps of the game, but let's have a look at the positives for a second. Overall, the game has very high production quality. The artwork on the cards is absolutely beautiful, and the way that you get two different types of artwork, so you get the misty kind of memories for the partial memories and the nice clear ones, it's absolutely stunning. And when you see them all lined up together, it is an absolutely beautiful picture. Even the art for the basic components of the game, such as the clipboard and board itself, are very clean and convey the theme of working in a hospital very well. The story is very clever and very thoughtful, with a genuine desire to tell a sincere story. The character might not be real, but the events based on his life are, and clever eagle-eyed detectives amongst you will obviously figure out the faithful nods to history that are scattered throughout the game. And even components such as the counters and meeples that might not be plastic or another material of a higher quality are still functional and very easily get the job done, and I would argue even still quite nice. And the theme of playing the game and the stresses and trials and tribulations that you take on as playing a nurse, I think are just good enough to make you feel like you are actually a nurse whilst in the confines of the game, without getting into the nitty-gritty of all the things that nurses actually have to do in real life. I think it's a fair compromise between what they can realistically portray in a board game. So if those were the positives, what are the negatives of this game? Well, in truth, you won't see much of Billy's personality in the first scenario. That is purely designed to teach you how to play the game, and therefore you do not see much of the story around his character until at least scenario 2. In fact, just the opening to season 2, just the introduction, gives you more flavour than you get in the entirety of playing the first scenario. The scenarios can be played quite quickly, so if I were you, I would probably play the first 2 scenarios before making any kind of judgment on whether you like the game. Another key point might be that the replayability of this game might not be quite as high as you might think. Whilst the game does say that you can replay any aspect of this game, I wonder how much you will want to play it when you know what happened to Billy's life. There will might be certain aspects that you've missed, but the flip side of that is I don't know how strong your desire will be. Having said that, if you play all of the scenarios, then I would argue that out of a £31.50 game at Harlequins price, you're getting more than your value out of this game. And lastly, the one thing that I feel that might be considered a negative for this game, unfortunately, is the subject matter. It was extremely brave of Hub Games to make this game. The subject matter is a very delicate thing and they have approached it very beautifully, but there is no denying that it will put some people off this game. For example, you probably couldn't play this with children. It's a very difficult subject matter for them to try and digest. So unfortunately, I feel this game won't get the kind of mass appeal that it does deserve in many respects, just purely and simply based on its subject matter. However, I dare say that Hub Games knew that this was going to be the case when they went into it. This game will definitely gather a select audience who are brave and want to discover what games can and truly should be able to convey. So overall, do I actually recommend Holding On: The Troubled Life of Billy Kerr? Yes, I do. I think this is a very, very good game. But more importantly, no game is ever for everybody, so who do I recommend it to? Well, that's an interesting one. I recommend this game to probably adults, I think. I think the subject matter is probably not quite really appropriate for children. As for gameplay, I think it's going to appeal to people who are who like things like Pandemic, with that kind of disaster management style gameplay, and the constant kind of stress of trying to make sure that you can accomplish your tasks with the limited resources that you have available. But also, I feel like if you like detective games, I feel like there's certainly a little something in here, the intrigue to keep you going. It definitely helps to tie this all together and just stop it being a kind of clone of something like Pandemic in just another medical game. Um, so yes, I feel that if you like something with a bit of mystery, like to get the old brain cells going, as well as obviously watch something slowly unravel before you, as well as being able to juggle quite a few balls in the air at once, then I definitely think that Holding On is for you. As I mentioned before, it's only £31.50 at Harlequins price, so you could probably chip in with a couple of other players and this would become a very cheap purchase that you could all share and enjoy. Anyway, I've waffled on long enough. I really hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please consider liking and sharing the video. If you'd like to stay up to date, don't forget to subscribe and ring that notification bell so that you are notified whenever we do a new video. If you'd like to try and win this copy of the game, then all you have to do is share the original post via Facebook. Failing that, I'll see you all on Monday for the Harlequins news show. But in the meantime, if you have any thoughts or comments on this episode, did you like the new format? Did you like the new style? Do you want to see more reviews? Or do you want me to go back to what I was doing before? Any thoughts or criticisms or comments, just drop them down below in the comment section and I'll get sure to read them and get back to you. But in the meantime, thank you very much for spending this time with me. I hope you all enjoyed the video and I'll see you all on Monday.